They have a combined 12 years in the National Football League. They combined for 65 career sacks, 232 tackles, 1 Pro Bowl selection, and 1 Employee of the Month award.
That's just a straight shooter with upper management written all over him.
It's Trae and Grose on the All AZ Podcast Network.
Welcome in, Train and Grose, the last edition of June.
Wow.
In a toasty, it's toasty to me. I'm back after taking a vacation.
Okay.
It gets hot in Arizona.
Yeah, it gets a little toasty, brother. Gets a little toasty.
So we had a 40-hour. Karen and I had a 40-hour car ride,
Wow.
and we were talking about different things, and the topic of vaccinations came up.
Okay.
Not COVID, not doing that.
Yeah.
But I made the comment. Remember Terry Bradshaw did the commercials for
Shingles.
Thank you. And he scared the crap out of me.
Yep.
And she goes, you're that age.
Wow.
You are.
She goes, you should probably get the shingles vaccination.
Wow.
But Terry Bradshaw, who played in the NFL, got all the injuries in the NFL, and when he said, that was the worst pain I ever had was when I got the shingles.
Yep.
And she said, you should get the shingles vaccination. I don't know if I felt bad because she was telling me I was old.
Wow.
Or she was looking out for me, so I should feel good about that.
I think you should feel good.
But I don't want shingles, man. I do not. So you talk about the benefits of advertising.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen that commercial probably in 2 years, and it's still burned into my image.
I mean, some things, when it affects you directly, you're going to hold on to it. And I think for most people, that's kind of the story of life. You hear certain stories resonate with people because it affects them directly. And when it doesn't affect them directly, then they're like, oh, well, moving on to the next.
Speaking of moving on to the next, you may hear some sounds in the background, some licking of the fingers.
Yeah.
Some
smacking, lip smacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sean Cressman treated the team to apple fritters.
Yeah, buddy.
Because I've never had one before. We had a little topic, I think, during Pump
Couple
the
weeks
Brakes.
ago.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago in Pump the Brakes.
Talking about donuts.
Somehow donuts got brought up.
Yeah.
So you said this was your favorite donut.
Yeah, we did a poll.
And I went straight to chocolate Long John, right? I said I never had no comments from you. I said I've never had one of your favorites, Grose. So I said we'd pick it up the next time we were in the studio together. So here we go. First bite right now.
Yep. Let's all do it
of
together.
the Grose special.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's pretty
That's
good.
an apple fritter for you.
Apple fry. That's not
That's
bad.
going to get it done right there.
So we did
That's very good.
Yes.
at Train and Gross on Twitter. We did an actual poll in recognition of National Donut Day a couple weeks ago, and each of us gave our favorite donut. I believe you, B-Train, said glazed. And you said
Good old chocolate Long John, man.
he said chocolate Long John, and I said apple fritter. And then we gave people the option to reply with something else. And glazed ran away with it, like
It's hard to beat
40%.
the original, brother.
40%.
It's hard to beat the original.
Apple fritters came in third. Less than a quarter of our listeners.
I can't believe you've gone through 30-plus years without
39.
39
years,
years
never
without the pleasure of an apple fritter. This is your first taste.
My first one. This is pretty damn good.
Wow.
It's cinnamony. Is that a word, right? Cinnamon. It's a tough one to say.
Cinnamony.
Cinnamony. The apple really pops when you get a nice bite of the apple, and then it kind of crumbles too, which gives it a good effect. This is a good donut.
Thanks to our friends at Bosa Donuts.
That's a good donut.
Shout
I'll give
out
it to
to
you,
Bosa.
Gross. Now, and I'm going to go there. You told me not to, but I'm going to go there. We've had many conversations about putting pineapple on pizza, and I know B-Train's got my back on this one. Pineapple on pizza is delicious.
Got all your back, brother.
He told me when we were doing a radio show together, Mike Grose did, that
Warm fruit.
yes, fruit should never be
Served warm.
served warm.
Right.
What's this?
Well, A, it's not warm. It was fried into that.
Wow.
To give you that wholesome goodness that you're enjoying.
Wow.
And it's better for you than most donuts because it has actual fruit in it.
You need to come up with
Wow.
a different reason why you dislike
It's
pineapple.
not warm. Is it warm?
You need to come up with a different
Is it
reason.
warm?
It ain't cold.
It ain't. It's true. You need to come up with a different reason why you dislike
We had
pineapple
this
on
conversation. You were wrong then. You're wrong now. This is like if you're going to tell me apple pie, I can't like that.
It's going down with the ship.
pizza. Just saying. He is. He's going to go all the way down.
I'll go all the way down.
All right.
I will die on this hill.
This apple fritter,
Yep.
it's going to go all the way down into my belly as well while you guys talk about
Get
the Phoenix
in
Suns.
my belly.
See you at the crossroads, man.
There you go.
If you're going down.
All right. The entire podcast gets derailed over a fight about fruit being cooked.
Yeah, fruit in general. Food is always that one that takes you off the rails.
Just for the record, I'm correct.
Okay.
Suns Clippers 2-1 after
Yeah.
the third game last night in Los Angeles. As I don't know where to start with this one. It was bound to happen sooner or later. The Suns had won 9 in a row in the postseason leading up to this game. So that was part of it. Clippers stepped it up defensively in a big way. But the one that I think I want to start with is because we spent a lot of time going into the postseason. Who needs to step up big? Chris Paul and everything that he means to this team.
Sure.
Obviously, Devin Booker, his coming out in the postseason. DeAndre Ayton, who's been huge in the postseason up until this point. But sometimes it's those players you don't expect to have the impact, or you don't miss them till they're gone.
Yep.
And I'm thinking of Cam Payne. He went down with the rolled ankle, and it seemed like that took the wind out of the sails of the Phoenix Suns last night.
It did take the wind out of their sails, but Mike, I'm going to go from a totality standpoint of this series. And first, I got to give the Suns some love, and I got to give the Suns fans some love. I thought they were the difference in the first two games of this series.
Particularly game 2.
It's particularly game 2. And looking at how we had basketball without fans for a while with the bubble and then all of last year, and then to slowly integrate the fans back into the arenas, there is no doubt that the fans play a crucial role in sports and the drama of it and the what happens throughout the course of a game and how players are affected by the presence of fans. Even though fans can't come on the court and really do anything physically, the fact that they do generate that momentum for you. I think the Suns were extremely lucky to have those first two games at home, and I think they took full advantage. And I think for the LA Clippers, they've figured out that they cannot just sleepwalk through the playoffs.
Sure.
Without a Kawhi Leonard and having Paul George have the games that he had. He didn't play poorly, but you saw the presence of Kawhi really affect this team. And even though they were close games by the Phoenix Suns, I thought last game you saw what the Clippers can really do when they make up their minds. When they're engaged and they're interested in playing basketball, Mike, this is a very dangerous team. And we talked about this being a bad matchup for the Suns at the outset of the playoffs. Yeah. And even without a Kawhi Leonard, we saw that in full effect in Game 3.
Yeah, Sean Cressman mentioned that at the beginning when everybody was talking about avoiding the Lakers, avoid the Lakers, avoid the Lakers. He said, let's keep an eye on that Clippers team. And that may be coming true. And look, I don't want to overstate this. I don't have any inside information, but you look at Game 4, how big a game this is in terms of this series for both teams.
Okay.
Because you look at it, if you're the Suns, if you can bounce back, if you can figure it out, right, and come home 3-1, up 3-1, you're in a really good spot. You got the chance to close it out at home.
They can't beat them 3 straight. They can't beat the Suns 3 straight.
That's what I'm saying. So you come home up 3-1.
It's over.
You got to feel really good about that.
It's over.
On the other side of the coin with the Clippers, you got to feel good about what you did defensively, right? And if you can keep the pressure, I don't know that Book and Chris Paul will have as bad a game shooting combined as they had in Game 3.
Yep.
But even if they would have gone closer to average, that didn't guarantee the Suns a win, right? This isn't like the Clips had a 3-point win that they're lucky to get away from, and you could say, well, geez, look at, it was totally on the shooting night that Booker and Paul had.
Yeah.
So if you're the Clippers and you can come back and even this thing up, you got to feel really good if you're a Clippers fan, because you are more battle tested in this postseason than the Suns are.
Yes,
Take nothing away from what the Suns have done, because they took care of their business. But there's a different mentality, a different mindset when you get that 4-0 win over the Nuggets versus a series where you got to go on the road and beat the Mavericks.
Without a doubt, Mike. And I think for this Suns team, they've been very fortunate playing the teams when they played them. Teams that were without pretty much a star to begin with. I mean, we talk about Jamal Murray, against the Denver Nuggets. And who was the first round that they played against, the team that they played in the first round?
The Lakers in the first round.
The Lakers, without Anthony Davis. The fact that you don't have Anthony Davis there and LeBron's
and LeBron was not 100%.
So now you come to the Clippers. Now you don't have Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
So it seemed as if everything has played out for them. But I think for the Clippers, I think we saw the true value of one Tyronn Lue.
Yeah.
Tyronn Lue, I think, does not get enough credit for the coaching job that he's done Just think of this year alone. He's been 0-2 in all 3 series, and he's come back to win the series, the first 2, and now he's won another game coming back from 0-2, and he's looking to get this team back to another win out there in LA. And the way that they played last night, they can definitely duplicate that and maybe steal another win. But I don't think Devin Booker with the mask on, that definitely affected him. And Chris Paul, they're not going to have that bad of a shooting performance.
Well, and you talk about Tyronn Lue, and I'd like to compare that to what we were talking about a couple weeks ago with the Nuggets and Michael Malone, how he would, to almost like a high school coach. I'll find me 5 guys that want to be out here. And I got to think, if you're a player playing in the National Basketball Association, or I'm sure you can relate in the NFL, when you have a coach that's been there, done that, and he talks, he gets your attention.
Yes.
Look, we were down 0-2 before. Here's what we did. Here's what we do. Adjustment there. Adjustment there.
Yep.
We were down to the Mavericks in the second round. Adjust here, adjust there. Or, I'm sorry, first round. Jazz in the second round.
Yep.
And so, you listen to his post game. It's like calm. He doesn't seem fazed by this. No. And, he said, hey, look, we went out and did what we had to do. I thought we played better defense. Like, it was calm and even. And, if you're a player getting behind a coach like that, almost like what we've been talking all along here with the Suns.
Yeah.
You got a coach you can believe in, you're going to go to war on, as opposed to, like I said, that knucklehead up there coaching. Is he still coaching? I was gone for 2 weeks. I don't know if he's still coaching the Nuggets.
He's still there.
But Tyronn Lue, I think you're right, doesn't get enough credit.
Mike, think about his resume. This is a guy that won championships as a player. Mm-hmm. This is a guy that won a championship down 0-2, down 3-1 to the perceived best team of all time, the 73-win Golden State Warriors with the Cleveland Cavaliers. They won that series. He's a championship coach and a championship player. What more? And a championship assistant coach. He's won 3 in 3 different capacities. So what else does the man need to do to get respect? I mean, I know he's not the biggest guy in the world when you talk basketball-wise, but for whatever reason, people, I think, tend to shortchange, no pun intended, a Tyronn Lue for whatever reason. And I don't understand, because everywhere he's gone, he's been a winner, and he's won big. Not just you get deep in the playoff runs. He's got rings on his finger to say that, hey, I know what I'm doing when it comes to this in-series adjustments and how to match up against certain teams and see what they've done, take their best shot, and then be able to counter. Why wouldn't people think that he was able to do this?
No, absolutely. No question about it. And you talk about it, and you did when Doc Rivers was leading the Clippers, and it just seems like a difference there. Obviously, they got a lot of work to do. I mean, you'd much rather be up 2-1 than down 2-1. But, you got to feel good if you're the Clippers going in to Game 4, particularly because what they did was defensive.
Yes.
Like, it wasn't like they were like on an unbelievably hot shooting game.
Energy, Mike. Like, they had more energy than the Suns. And the Suns were due for a clunker, though.
Yeah, absolutely. You win 9 in a row in the postseason. Absolutely. The other thing, I had this thought, and coming back to the teams that the Suns have played, not being at 100%, the Suns have been remarkably fortunate in terms of having, for the most part, bodies available. Obviously, Chris Paul missing 2 games. They rallied and won those games. And now where we started with this campaign out with the rolled ankle in Game 3, whether or not he's able to go in Game 4, it'll be interesting to see. Cam Johnson was the first option off the bench, and he does not shoot as well as Campaign. Says Captain Obvious. So, you hope, if you're a Suns fan, that the Campaign, injury is not serious and he's able to go sooner rather than later.
Mike, I really look at the team and how they performed in those first 2 games. I think ultimately that was kind of foreshadowing of what this team is going to look like in the future. We know Chris Paul is a great floor general. We know that he's going to be critical for this team to win the championship this year.
Yep.
But you start looking into the future. You start looking 3-4 years down the road. I think you see the heir apparent to Chris Paul. We saw him drop 29 in a Game 2 versus the LA Clippers. So they seem faster, Mike. They seem more explosive. And you saw Devin Booker look more like the Devin Booker that the Suns fans have been waiting on, a guy that can really get up and down the floor, really open the game up, and with the lanes open, you can actually see DeAndre Ayton running the floor and being that guy looking like a giant gazelle, just up and down the floor, catching alley-oops from the free throw line, and it seems like he's got arms for days. I love the way it reminds me of the Steve Nash type Suns, where they're actually getting up and down the floor. And with Chris Paul, I think it kind of caught him by surprise in Game 3, because he missed the first 2 games, and he had to reinvent himself, so to speak, in order to get himself back into the flow of that series, because he looked like a fish out of water. And I thought ultimately the energy of the Clippers and the way that they played really changed the narrative and how this series is going to be won.
Patrick Beverley, you look at the impact he had, and you mentioned the mask for Devin Booker.
I think that greatly affected him.
I think it affected him, but I think Patrick Beverley affected him. And so it'll be interesting to see how this comes along, because again, defense, it's one of those things. It's not, you don't have to stay hot. It's like you said, it's energy,
yes.
It's intensity.
Yes.
And they seem to have found something out. Speaking of Tyronn Lue coming up with the adjustment.
Just about to say that.
And so until the Suns can show that they can figure it out. I heard a stat or read a stat probably on social media about what Devin Booker is shooting when he's being guarded one up by Patrick Beverley, and it's in the 20s.
Yes.
20%.
Yes.
And when Patrick Beverley's not guarding him, it's closer to 45%, right? So, the difference is, can the Suns come up with a way for some sort of adjustment to help Devin Booker out in that matchup?
Mike, I really think that was the genius of Tyronn Lue. I think Patrick Beverley was a guy that didn't play a lot the first 2 games. And the fact that you bring him off the bench and you allow him to get into a flow and set a tone for the entire team, as far as from a defensive perspective, you saw that team look different at home. They look more energized, they look more engaged, and they looked hungry. They looked like a desperate basketball team. And I think with the LA Clippers, they're accustomed to being that desperate basketball team. And it took Patrick Beverley to come off the bench to provide that spark, to remind them, hey guys, when we're clicking on all cylinders, this is what we look like. We're a defense first team, and then we get out on the breaks and let the shooters do what they do.
All right, real quickly as we wrap this segment up, and Sean may jump in on this conversation as well, and I saw it on social media after the alley-oop win the other night.
The valley-oop?
The valley-oop. The biggest postseason play in Arizona sports history. Where does that rank relative to some of the other?
Arizona's all of them?
All professional sports.
Then it's got to be the Gonzo blooper. Even though I would put
that won a World Series.
Yeah, won a World Series.
Period.
Barkley shot against the Spurs sunk that series would be up there. It doesn't even come close to winning a World Series, but that's got to be up there.
The only other the one I was thinking of was the 2015 divisional playoffs. Larry Fitzgerald.
Yep.
It's 2 plays, but for the purposes of to make a point, I'll take some liberties and say that was one single play where he scored against the Packers on the shovel. To me, the play before was bigger. Because without that play, they don't even get that shovel point.
pass.
That's why I said,
Plus, it has that one play had it all. Carson scrambles. He finds somehow Larry's by himself. Then you got the stiff arm halfway to the inside the 5.
And so you come back to that play the other night that DeAndre Ayton scored on. Obviously, you give him credit, but a lot to your point. It wasn't DeAndre Ayton. There was a lot that went into that play to make that pass in that situation.
I thought it was a complete blunder of the Los Angeles Clippers.
I
First,
agree.
Why do you have Boogie Cousins in there? 2, why don't you have Boogie Cousins blocking the vision of Jay Crowder in the basket? Jay had a perfect look. Like, all he had to do was just traject the ball to the basket and let DeAndre Ayton time it up and put it in.
And 3, why is Zubac even following DeAndre? His ass should have been underneath the hoop and not move it.
Well, because then they would have given it would have given the opportunity for Nicholas Batum to come out to step out on Devin Booker. Because remember, the reason that play worked is because Batum knew he couldn't leave Devin Booker, and they knew that. So Zubin did everything right. He just can't jump over Sunday newspaper. I mean, that just really what the game comes down to. If he could jump, then that's a moot play. It doesn't go off. But I think Batum had no choice. He was kind of stuck in no man's land, and the fact that Boogie Cousins was defending it improperly. Like, he should have been in a direct vision of Jay Crowder in the basket, and the fact that he was off to his right, he had a perfect look at it, and he threw a perfect pass. You give him credit for it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, that's going to do it for the Suns. They pick it up this weekend in Los Angeles, Game 4 against the Clippers. On the other side, we'll take a look. More NBA talk coming up on Train and Gross.
Train and Gross.
That break was longer than they normally are.
We had some business to handle, brother.
Sean Cressman, you were unusually quiet in our opening segment. How's that apple fritter treating you?
It's not bad. It's kind of dangerous that I found these now.
And you said something else that was really shocking. You said you'd never been where?
To Bosa Donuts.
Wow. Treat yourself, brother.
Treat yourself.
Shout out to Bosa.
Get him a gift card.
I mean, something. Easiest birthday gift / whatever gift, Christmas, whatever.
Just on the way home from the gym since you're living healthy now.
That's why I say it's kind of dangerous that I just found this now. I'm down 31 pounds.
But see, now you can eat it, and now knowing that you've got a lifestyle now, you can feel better about it. Yeah.
It's not wrong.
Either that or you get a dozen of them and shoot that lifestyle to hell.
That sounds
There's that.
What happened to Sean? Apple fritters.
I thought he was doing well. Oh,
Bosa.
Somebody told him apple fritters
Trainer
were
Grose told him about these apple fritters.
Somebody told him they were healthy.
Yeah. They had apples in them.
Got a whole apple in an apple fritter. NBA talk continues. The Atlanta Hawks up 1-0 on the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm going to ask you a question to start this segment off, B-Train.
Yeah.
We're kind of biased here in Phoenix, obviously, but in terms of bursting on the NBA postseason scene, man, Devin Booker here.
Yes.
And Trae Young in Atlanta.
Trae in a big way in Atlanta.
Yeah, nationally, I wonder, and again, we live, our vision is clouded here. I wonder what the bigger story is, Devin Booker or Trae Young. Because you look on social media, the worldwide leader is all Trae Young all the time.
I think it's Trae Young because of how he came into the league. Remember, he was traded for Luka Doncic. And Luka Doncic has not disappointed either. We're talking about two of the more talented players under 25. If you were to reclassify that group, that 2018 group, and say, okay, who's the best player right now in that class, you're looking at 1 and 1A.
Yeah.
And you could take your pick.
Yeah.
And I think both teams would probably be very happy with their outcome, and they would do it again.
I think that's a really good point.
Well.
I think that's a really good point, too, because typically when you have those types of deals, you look around and like, man, that didn't work out for one or the other. And so both to say, look, this has worked out so far so good
No
for
doubt.
both of them. The other thing that I would say about Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks is they came in as a 5 seed, if you recall. Suns, we talked a lot about the desert that has been the postseason drought for the Suns going back, 11 years. It's not like the Atlanta Hawks have been a common presence in the postseason, and but to come in as a 5th seed,
yes,
and now to be playing in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think that helps the narrative as well.
Mike, there is no one, and I mean no one in the basketball world that had the Atlanta Falcons or Atlanta Hawks in the conference finals.
Right.
And this is a team that has won 3 consecutive game ones on the road.
Yeah.
So you talk about a team that is getting it done in adverse situations. I think Trae Young, he gets all of the attention because of the fact that I think he's had a little bit of a harder road to go. When you got to go on the road to start series and you go and steal game 1 at home or on the road against teams that are favored over you, I think that sends a direct message. And I think those teams, especially the first 2 that he sent packing, New York and the Sixers, they never recovered from that initial punch. We always talk about people have a plan till they get punched in the mouth.
Right.
They didn't have a plan. New York and Philly didn't have a plan B after they got punched in the mouth in game 1. And you saw that again in game 1 with the Milwaukee Bucks. And I just got to say this too, Mike. And I know I'm hogging the mic, but let me just say this too. Can we please take the interim tag off of Nate McMillan?
I saw you put that on Twitter, and I could not agree more.
Are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding?
Could not agree more.
Interim coach? I mean, like, they still introduce him after games when he's won as interim coach in the conference finals.
Yeah. I don't know what do you have to do?
I don't know.
What do you have to do? But going back to the Hawks and what they did,
yeah,
you can kind of get the Knicks, right? You can kind of
understand because
they were tied, right?
4-5
with the identical record, so
yes.
it was a tiebreaker type of thing.
Yes.
But you're 100% correct about the Sixers because you knock off as the 5 seed, you knock off the 1 seed, and we said the same thing. Man, did you see what they did game 1? And then they did the exact same thing against the 3 seed, the Milwaukee Bucks, right? So,
coming off a big win against the Brooklyn Nets.
Absolutely. You're of the opinion, though, that Trae Young better have his head on a swivel tonight after some of the plays from the other night.
Mike, you start talking. You go back to and 1 mixtapes, and a lot of the antics that he put out there in that game was and 1 mixtape.
Yeah, it was.
You talk about the alley oop off the backboard. And then you talk about the crossover with the shimmy and you pause there. And then after the pause, you stand and you stare at the crowd for a full second.
For a count, yeah.
All those things add up to showing up your opponent, and those things are generally frowned upon. I know this isn't the 90s, and we're all from a different era. We grew up in a different era where those type of things were met swiftly and quickly,
right.
As far as retaliation. It's a different league, but I still think the sentiment is still the same as far as the Milwaukee players are going to have something to say about that.
It's not Major League Baseball. We don't have the unwritten rules, but
there's going to be somebody send the message to Trae Young tonight.
He went down for sure. Was there anybody? You don't get that quite as much in the NFL, but was there anybody that ever got under the skin of a defense you were on?
Oh, Richard Incognito.
Really?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay.
I mean, this was a guy that he was known to be nasty. I even think about Kevin Mawai. Kevin Mawai was that guy too as a center, and he was, admittedly, is a little bit dirty. He doing some things. You remember the old ref with the infamous call. He was giving them the business.
Giving them the business.
That was Kevin Mawai to his heart, and Richard Incognito, that was him to a T. He loved giving people the business, and so there's always those kind of guys. And even with the Cardinals, Dockett didn't always play. Mm-hmm. He wasn't a choir boy out there. Let's just say that.
Is Richie Incognito still in the league?
He's with Vegas now. He was out all last year. He played one game. Actually played the first series of one game, and then went out. But he's back again this year. Matter of fact, they think they voted him team captain again.
He's a local guy, Mountain Ridge High School.
Yeah.
And apparently had quite the reputation.
He had some issues
at Mountain Ridge High School, and of course went on to Nebraska. While we're talking about the NBA, Becky Hammon's name is still getting kicked around as a potential head coach. She's being Portland apparently is very interested in hiring her, and
she makes a lot of sense, Mike. She makes a lot of sense. She's a Greg Popovich disciple.
Bingo.
And she has proven herself after many years on the sidelines with Greg as far as an assistant coach. And talk about the Greg Popovich tree. I mean, it's growing exponentially because, the coach of the Boston Celtics, I can't remember his name, but he's being hired as the new coach from San Antonio. So there's lots of coaching changes. And Jason Kidd, very own Jason Kidd, is going to be the new coach of the Dallas Mavericks. So lots of changes.
Jason Kidd
going on. How about that? I mean, the man has had a star-crossed career, to say the least.
Yeah.
From his time as a player to his time as a coach, for it to come full circle, I just hope that he's ready. I hope he's ready for this moment. I hope he's figured everything out. He seems to be in a happy place, new marriage, new family, all those things. We'll just say we wish him the best.
Yeah, it's an interesting hire.
Interesting.
On the one hand, you definitely get it, but there's a lot of, like I should have said, there are a lot of buts with that hire.
Wow.
So we'll see. But again, when we talked about the Dallas Mavericks, we talked about they got to do something.
They're a mess.
They are a mess.
Is this it though? Is this the something?
I don't know.
This is a guy who
it's
you go back to his previous two coaching stints as a head coach, Nets, Bucks. It didn't go well. I understand he's Jason Kidd, won you a championship in Dallas. I get it. But that doesn't mean he's a great coach. It doesn't mean he's right to get this roster right.
Well, and that's the key is who do they put in place around him and what do they do to get that roster right? Because that roster is missing some critical pieces.
Yeah.
And, you mentioned Trae Young, you mentioned Luka Doncic. If you don't get some help around Luka Doncic right now, individually it'll be great, all these great accolades, but you got to get some help around him in order for them to go past the first round.
Mike, I think Jason Kidd is going to be a better coach for Luka Doncic because he is more relatable than Rick Carlisle was.
Fair.
And I got a lot of love and a lot of respect for Rick Carlisle. He's a champion as a coach. He's been in two different places and had success with both stints, and he's going back to Indiana, which good for him. But I just think when you start thinking about Luka and what kind of coach he needs, Jason Kidd actually makes a lot of sense. And I think if you're Mark Cuban, the fact that you brought Dirk Nowitzki back in as a consultant special to you, like he's a consultant to Mark Cuban now, you bring in the franchise's all-time great player to be that ambassador, if you will. He had to do that.
Yeah.
And Dirk Nowitzki and Luka Doncic had to sign off on this hire because if either one of them had issues with it, I don't think Jason Kidd gets hired as a new head coach.
And the last thing NBA-wise before we get out of here is the NBA draft lottery the other night, and the Houston Rockets didn't even win that.
Number 2.
Detroit Pistons, I think they said, I correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys maybe I read this wrong. First time in draft lottery history since they've been doing it this way.
Since Patrick Ewing with
that there's
85?
been the upset.
Yeah.
Detroit Pistons get number 1 in the upcoming NBA draft, and I did a little research. Third time in Pistons history, they had the first round pick, 1967. Jimmy Walker out of Providence.
Wow.
He was okay. Moved on from Detroit, ended up in Kansas City, and then walked away from the game. And then the big one, if you're a Pistons fan, 1970 from St. Bonaventure, the big dauber, Bob Lanier.
Bob Lanier.
That was I don't know that there's a Bob Lanier in this draft, but
Yeah.
take it.
What was my guy that was drafted before Carmelo in the 2003 draft?
Darko Milicic.
Darko Milicic.
He's a farmer back home.
Number 2 pick.
Somebody
of the
went and
draft.
found him, and he's a farmer back home somewhere.
Number 2 pick, Mike.
Yeah.
And, you know, like
That killed Joe Dumar's career.
It really did.
There was he won championships as a general manager,
That year he won a championship.
but he's more well known for that pick.
for Darko Milicic. And not taking Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, he won an NBA championship.
yes. And still was fired because that was such a bad pick.
Jimmy Walker was an interesting story, and I don't know if you guys saw this. I went back and read it. I remember hearing about it, but Jimmy Walker is Jalen Rose's father, and they did not know each other.
Wow.
And they finally connected
Right
late,
before he died.
Right before he died, and they had a meeting scheduled, and Jimmy Walker passed away before Jalen Rose could meet him in person.
Wow.
They had spoken on the phone. Jimmy Walker followed his career. Really, you say what you will about ESPN and some of the things they do, especially but their written material is really good. And if you haven't read it, go back and read the story about Jimmy Walker and Jalen Rose. It'll put a tear in your eye about, he passed away from lung cancer before he got to meet his son.
Yeah. I mean, I think about the E60s and I think about the 30 for 30s.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any more – I don't think there's any better sports content out there than what ESPN provides on those two mediums.
There's been a handful of 30 for 30s that are about topics I have no interest in. You just going through my daily life.
Yeah.
And you'll sit down and watch one segment of it, and next thing you know, you're like, well, I can't turn this off. I mean, there was one about a marching band, I think, one time. I was just sucked in, like, this is amazing content. Yeah, 30 for 30s are where it's at. The ultimate 30 for 30, though, is called Winning Time.
Oh, yeah, Reggie Miller? Absolutely.
Reggie versus the Knicks. It is the best 30 for 30 that they've made so far. I've watched it like 7 times.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So there you go. Sorry, Houston Rockets.
I mean, Mike, really, Mike? You going to do that to me, man?
It's part of I was reading the script. It's part of the NBA segment we do.
I mean.
I don't even know, though, this year, like, let's do our mock draft real quick.
Oh, the kid from Oklahoma State, Cade or what? I can't remember his name.
Cade Cunningham?
Cade Cunningham. There you go. Yeah. He's the number 1 pick. He's the guy going to Detroit. And after that,
it's not a great draft, I guess, is the point.
He's pulling the same thing. Remember when DeAndre Ayton came out? He worked out for the Suns and the Suns only. It's already been announced that Cade Cunningham's working out for the Pistons.
And the Pistons only.
That's it.
Yeah.
He's going there. That's what it's going to be.
All right, on the other side, we'll do some news and notes around the world of sports. Coming up, Train and Grose.
Train and Grose.
You ever had an apple fritter, Sean Cressman?
It's delicious.
Those are
Mike
so
Grose.
good. Man, I just finished mine. It was yummy.
wow.
It was yummy. All right, speaking of not yummy, Arizona Diamondbacks.
Opposite of yummy.
I've heard people describe what's going on with the Diamondbacks in a lot of different ways. Not yummy. It's a new one. That's good though.
21-55 is not yummy.
So it's not yummy, it's yucky.
28 games behind the San Francisco Giants is not yummy.
It's yucky.
They're 1-9 in their last 10.
Yucky.
And I was driving in listening to the flagship station, and the update came in, said something like, well, the Diamondbacks did win on Monday. Like, that's what we're reduced to with the Diamondbacks. They won on Monday.
Yucky.
Not yummy, but yucky.
Yucky. I mean, good thing we have the Suns right now. Because if all we had to talk about were the Diamondbacks, this would be a very depressed city. as far as sports is concerned, because it seems like all of the news has not been great in the last 72 hours in reference to sports here in the Valley.
Yeah. They're on pace to win 44 games on a 162-game schedule. 44.
Well, and they're playing tonight as we record this on a Friday, and they're back out on the road, starting a 6-game road trip today in San Diego, and then I believe in against the Cardinals, St. Louis.
Yucky.
But that 23-game consecutive road losing streak,
it's on the line.
On the line in about an hour from now.
They got the champagne on ice. See if they can break the.
Yeah, I don't know if it's champagne though that they be opening up.
I think you and I talked about this. Your worst year as a professional athlete, I think,
11
record-wise, was early in your career.
My rookie year.
It grinds, though, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
And did the edge come off at all for you? Because you came out of a very successful collegiate program, and so then you get tossed into that type of a situation.
Yep.
I mean,
first 2 years, 3-13. We lost 26 games my first 2 years in the league. I'd never lost 26 games total in my life, and I played 3 different sports in high school.
Mentally,
it's a grind. It's the worst. I would not wish that on anybody. Now, I wasn't a 0-16. Now, I can only imagine what those Detroit Lions went through, and there was another team that just went through it recently. The Browns. I can't imagine that, an entire season not winning anything, but to lose the first 11 games of my professional career, that's something that I can never get back. I can never outlive it, because I remember the feeling in the locker room. I remember the desperation that we had. And the first team we beat, Mike, was the defending champions, the Green Bay Packers that year. So it was so surreal just how everything played out. But when you're in that kind of a losing streak, Mike, you everything becomes magnified. The details, how you practice, how you go out as a team, how you get along or don't get along, all those relationships become magnified when you lose. Winning covers up a multitude of sins. I mean, that's one of the oldest adages, if you will, in sports history, but it's so true.
Yeah.
When you're winning, there's a lot of things that just kind of get pushed under the rug and saved for a later date. But when you're losing, everything gets magnified. Yeah. So it's tough sledding for the Diamondbacks right now. I know it's a struggle, and the only thing that they can do is just put their head down and go to work every day.
In other news in town, Cardinals rookie Zavin Collins was arrested for reckless driving earlier Sunday, I guess, here in metropolitan Phoenix. And he obviously didn't listen to the podcast last time, because you gave an admonishment to everybody out there as teams were getting ready for the last break before training camp started. And he was arrested at 10:04 a.m., going 76 miles per hour in a 35-mile-per-hour zone near East Chaparral Road in Scottsdale.
I know that road. I know that stretch of road. I mean,
7400 East Chaparral. That's up by the high school up there.
That is exactly by the high school. It's over there by Chaparral and Saguaro over there. So I just look at it and Mike,
that's 41 miles an hour in case you struggle with math.
Yeah, in case you struggle. But to me, when you're that young and you have access to things that you haven't had access to ever in your life until now, those are some of the pitfalls. Those are some of the things that people say, well, see, you shouldn't have that. You don't deserve to have it. It's not that he doesn't deserve it. It's just you don't know what to do with it yet. Yep. And I think when you're young and you're having that free time where you don't have any type of supervision, nobody's telling you what to do, where to go, what time to be at a certain place, you feel like you're completely free. And Mike, it happens every single year. Yep. I give that admonishment every single year. Don't get out of shape and don't be that guy. And inevitably, there's always somebody who gets out of shape, and there's always somebody who's that guy.
In Arizona, reckless driving is considered a Class 2 misdemeanor and is a jailable offense. So he's got more time with the law coming. And the other thing that he gets, which you try to avoid at all costs, is the obligatory booking photo. And it didn't do him any favors.
Didn't look good.
No, it wasn't a good look for him. I don't even want to say the only good thing, because there is no good thing. But when I heard about this, as I said, I was on vacation. So my daughter said, oh, man, Zavin Collins was arrested. I said, oh, no, what happened? She goes, criminal speeding. I said, and? Yeah. Because I was just waiting for the other shoe to drop. I figured there might have been alcohol involved. I hate to go negative, but I figured that was the case. So I guess if there is a positive.
Silver lining.
Silver lining.
There you go.
You know, there was no drugs or alcohol involved, no weapon involved, nothing else other than the criminal speeding.
Just a dumb choice by a young guy.
Yeah.
A rookie who hadn't even made a dent in the league yet, who is already making poor decisions. You hope it doesn't translate into his career and what happens after this, but I think he's going to learn his lesson fairly soon, and this will probably be one of those scared straight type of moments where he's
at a crossroads, right?
He's probably going to come out squeaky clean and really be a model citizen going forward, because he's learned the lesson that maybe it takes some guys 2-3 years to learn, that if you make a stupid mistake, it's going to cost you a lot more than a few bucks.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and we'll see what happens. And then the other story that's kicking around, and it's taken on a life of its own, is ASU football.
Wow.
Yahoo Sports, I think, started it, and then other publications, The Athletic, ESPN, are following up. But, you know, there are a lot of layers to this, but we'll start with some pretty serious recruiting violations being alleged against the Sun Devils football program, which are made worse by the fact that, you know, college football put in some pretty severe restrictions around recruiting relative to COVID and what you could and couldn't do on campus visits, et cetera, et cetera. And I know my daughter is a coach at an NCAA member institution. They had to take, like, you know, they were notified of what these were, and then you had to take a test to say, all right, I've read this, I understand this, you got to pass this test. No on-campus visits. You can't go off. So basically all you could do is recruit by phone and social media, email, however else. But you couldn't meet in person.
Yes.
Whether it be at the recruit's home or school
or at the
university.
Yeah.
And apparently ASU is like, rules don't apply to us.
Yeah, what rules?
But the other thing that's interesting, like I said, this is going to be looked at a lot of levels because, you know, on the one hand you would say recruiting violations in college sports in general.
You ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Right. But how the NCAA was made aware of this, apparently it's coming from
snitches get stitches, man.
Right? It's coming
that's where it is.
It's like that old horror movie. The call came from inside the house. Right? So apparently everything was wrapped up with a nice bow on it, delivered to the NCAA infractions department.
Here you go.
From within ASU's football program.
Here you go.
They had pictures of receipts. They have videotape. They have records of this and that.
Wow.
All delivered from within the football program.
With a nice red bow on top.
You know, and I think this is the thing. Yeah, exactly. This is the thing that's got to be frustrating for ASU fans, right? Because you hear, and I still think it's the case because these things take a while to play out, that this is the year for the Sun Devils to make their mark, to win the South and to see if they can't go on and do big things this season. They've got a really favorable schedule. And, you know, so far it's early, but so far a lot of these preseason prognostications are picking the Devils to come out of the Pac-12 and perhaps all the way to the college football playoffs. But, man, this has got to hang over this program like a dark cloud. And the fact that it's coming from inside, you got to be, if you work there or you're a player, you got to be looking over your shoulder like, who can you trust?
I mean, Mike, you talk about a dark cloud. I mean, this is going to be there's actually leaking inside the house. There's water damage inside the house. Just the equivalent of that. And when you start talking about Sun Devil, and I'll even go even further as far as Arizona University, I've always had issues with the fact that they don't recruit a lot of local players. That's been my biggest hang up about ASU and U of A. But then when you start talking about how they're recruiting players outside of the state, really? You're doing all that and you're still not winning the Pac-12? There's a huge disconnect here. And I think for a lot of those coaches on Herm Edwards' staff, I mean, I think they were starting to feel the heat. I think they were starting to feel the pressure. And you start talking about you got to win now. Well, in order to win, you got to have some of the best players. In order to win the Pac-12, you've got to have some of the better players in the Pac-12. And you're competing with the USCs. You're competing with the Oregons. You're competing with so many other teams, the Colorados. I mean, the list goes on and on. Stanford. And for them, they had to take a look at the landscape of this conference and be like, okay, where do we sit and how do we get ourselves better in quick, fast, in a hurry? Yeah, we're going to have to do some things. And it's unfortunate that the whistleblowers were probably from within, but it just goes to show a house divided Cannot stand, Mike.
I'm going to read the first paragraph from the most recent article at Yahoo Sports because I think this just kind of shows this isn't like because a lot of times you hear about these things and it's an alleged allegation of improprieties of some sort or another. The dossier of documents. It sounds like a political thing. Like here's the dossier of documents sent to the Arizona State Compliance Department and the NCAA Enforcement Department on May 31st begins with a blunt message about the allegations of NCAA improprieties in the ASU football program, and it goes on to say that this letter provides in meticulous details the series of alleged violations. So that's the first part, that they've got somebody from within the house or somebody that is no longer there.
You can stay right there, Mike, because that's the biggest part. The fact that somebody on the inside had intimate knowledge of what was going on and detailed it out for the people that were going to bring judgment on this program. Somebody had an axe to grind. Yeah. And I think you don't have to go any further than that. When you haven't taken care of the people that are in-house, then you're going to have these type of problems. And it's one thing to feel like the NCAA is coming down on you, but when people within your organization and within your program are actually the ones that are trying to bring you down, that speaks to disconnection and malcontent. And Mike, it seems as if it's opening up Pandora's box of all the things that were happening with ASU.
Well, no, absolutely. And you've got the question about who. Like if you work at ASU right now, you're looking over your shoulder. Can I trust you? Can I trust you? If you're a player, what'd you get? How come I didn't get it? Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And, for me, the other thing, when you hear about these NCAA violations in other places, it takes the NCAA a while to gather records and to do all these different things to make the case.
Yeah.
This was delivered right to them.
Yeah.
It's like, here, we did your job for you.
Yeah, here you
They're
go.
talking about they got copies of receipts. They've got copies of emails. They've got copy of text. Apparently there's a video of Herm Edwards in a meeting with a recruit during the dead time, the COVID dead time. And here's the thing. I felt like when you hired Herm Edwards, they said, we're going to do this different. We're going to run this like an NFL program.
Man of integrity.
Right?
Impeccable integrity.
And but you're going to have the buck stops here with Herm Edwards.
Yeah.
Everything that happens is going to be like the head coach, general manager,
CEO
of a NFL team.
Yep.
He has to own this.
Yeah.
He has to be responsible for this.
There's no way he can get around it, Mike, because he is the man in charge. He is the head honcho, and I think if this thing plays out the way that we think it will, I don't know if Herm survives this. I don't see any way that he
How
can
high
survive.
up does that go, though, beyond Herm? Because the other thing, and you've heard this, Sean's heard this, when you talk about these types of things, what happened down at U of A? Lack of institutional control.
Yeah, that starts at the very top.
Because you have to, and I hate to say it this way, but you have to assume, particularly in big-time programs where the pressure to win is so enormous, you have to assume that sometimes coaches, assistant coaches, recruiting coordinators, they're going to look for an edge. They're going to try to cut corners where they can. So you have to have a really strong team on top of them, athletic directors, assistant athletic directors, director of compliance, administrators, to keep them in check.
And
Coach, did you do this? Coach, when did you talk to this kid? No, we got to report this. And then it's a minor violation because, hey, Coach Barry got out in front of it. He was 2 days early. He talked to a kid. We'll take that hit. Where was that going on at ASU?
Mike, this doesn't happen where everything is okay.
Right.
This doesn't happen where everybody's on the same page and everybody's happy with the way things are being done. Somebody or some people were extremely upset because I think it takes more than one person to pull this off. You have to have a couple of people who have been having outdoor meetings or private meetings at lunchtime and they're whispering to one another while they're in office and they feel a certain type of way about something that's going on because people don't do this to people that they're happy with.
Yeah. The other thing in the Yahoo story is that the former employees of the ASU football program indicated that they want to talk to the NCAA.
And it's never good, Mike.
It's never good. And the point being around that is, usually if something's going down, again, we'll compare this to the U of A situation. That went on for years because they had to track people down and nobody wanted to talk to them. They were one step ahead of the law. You got somebody who was in there, probably helped or was responsible for.
Pick me.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I'll talk to you now.
Let's do it. How much do I get?
I will talk to you.
How much do I get?
Right?
Yeah.
So it's man.
It's bad. It's
This is
bad.
bad.
It's really bad.
And John Wilner, who covers the Pac-12 for the San Jose Mercury News and has a wonderful blog, and he's really dialed into these things. He reminded, kids can still get out of ASU now. With the rules that are in place, people can transfer out. I think I saw July 1st, you can get out without taking the hit to the eligibility. Now, whether or not there's a school that has a scholarship available and all that, I get it. But because a lot of times when when there's a train coming down the track, if you can get off before the collision, you don't want to get dirty with that. So, man.
NCAA could slow play that and kind of help out ASU too, and kind of prolong that verdict, and so those kids can get stuck. So either way, you just feel bad for the kids that want to be there and feel like they're doing it the right way, because this isn't going to end well.
No.
If you're going to be a Sun Devil and you're loyal and you're committed, you're going to have to go through some tough times starting now.
The other thing that's out there is that apparently, and this is where it gets dicey, and you wonder what kind of records are out there, who's got receipts, who's got pictures of emails and text messages.
Yeah.
But Jaden Daniels' mom, star quarterback of the ASU Sun Devils,
Wow.
apparently she paid for some of the recruits, or at least a recruit, to make the trip over. So that in and of itself is not illegal.
But was she reimbursed?
If she was reimbursed, then you got a problem.
See, Mike, there's so many levels to this, and there's so many people that could potentially be harmed, that in their minds they were doing something good to help the program get better, and they didn't ask for this. That I think as you start to peel the onion back and you start to get through all the different layers, I think even the innocent people are going to be touched in some way, and they didn't even know it. Yeah. And that's the unfortunate part about something like this. When you have this lack of institutional control, as we've talked about, there's going to be a lot of collateral damage. Yeah. And unfortunately, I don't know if a lot of people who are presently in the program are going to be able to escape that. Yeah.
No, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in terms of, damage control. Yes. Like if you're in the media relations department, you've got to pull those guys in, because you've got to control this message now. And at some point you might just say, look, whatever was delivered to the NCAA was also delivered to ASU. So I could just see like one of those movies where they got the copy machine going and the shredders going, and they were making 2 copies. So if you're ASU, you know what the NCAA has. And what are you doing from a damage control standpoint? Because you also know what the potential penalties are. Yeah. And to your point that you're making, there's going to be collateral damage. There's going to be some ugliness coming. But can you limit that? Can you say, "Oh my God, we had no idea. Let's throw ourselves on the live grenade right now"?
No, that's out.
Get over it.
No, that's out, Mike. Because when you've got detailed intel on what was going on, this is almost like Andy Dufresne from Shawshank Redemption. Remember when he left and he hand walked that stuff to the press and
put it in the mailbox.
Put it in the mailbox, and then he heard the sirens coming. I don't advocate for that type of ending, but I'm just telling you, there's going to be a whole lot of people put in positions that they didn't expect to be put in. Wow. And it's going to get ugly, real ugly. Man. How about that? Shawshank Redemption.
That was good. But that was a really good reference. Yeah. That was a really good reference, because they took advantage of Andy. They took advantage of him. Took advantage of him.
Until he had enough. Until he had enough.
Took the man's shoes. Took his.
Taking out the rocks in the yard. As he was building his tunnel.
That's good.
It's a great movie.
Well done, B-Train.
Great movie, man. That's one of my favorite movies of all time.
So we'll keep an eye on that one. But
yeah,
this is the story that keeps on giving.
Ugly. Yeah.
Right. All right. On the other side, we always say this. Well, maybe not for today, though, because usually we do a build-up to pump the brakes, and then, of course, dad jokes. Yeah. But today we let off with apple fritters.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to top the apple fritters, brother.
So we'll work hard at that. We'll see if we can do it. The research staff in the other room just delivered the questions to Sean Cressman. So we'll do that on the other side. You're listening to Train and Grose.
Yep. Yep.
And no, I didn't play this on the road trip. Still happily married.
Still a little disappointed in that.
Did you know, state of Wyoming, you can go 80 on the interstate?
Yeah. Texas, you can go 80.
75 through the Panhandle. I don't know if it's down deep in the heart of. It's different.
In the heart, you can go 80, brother. It's wide open.
So I was on I-90.
So you were going about 75.
I was going 75. I'm like, damn, people are going fast. And the sign says you go 80. So I was like,
Yeah.
pump it up there. Speaking of pump it up, pumped it up. Didn't pump the brakes on that.
No.
And then the other thing is, man, every state in this country is doing road work. Every state. It's so much construction.
I think the heat is really affecting the roads, man. I really do, because it's hot. It's hot everywhere. And the heat is becoming a factor.
Got to Casper, Wyoming. It was 105 degrees in beautiful Casper, Wyoming.
Something's up. I mean, I'm no expert in that area at all, but one thing I can pay attention to is the numbers across the board. And numbers across the board are extremely high right now.
There we go. All right.
All right, here we go. We're going to start local.
You got weather questions in Pump the
I
Brake?
don't. I can throw one in there if you'd like, but I currently do not. I'm going to throw you guys out some statements about different stories in the world of sports. You tell me if you're pumping the brakes on it or if you're rolling with it.
All right.
All right? And make sure I got the correct little sound effects here. There we go. All right, Phoenix Suns. They will never have a better opportunity to win the title than the one that presents them right now. Pump the brakes or not.
No, I'm not pumping the brakes. This was as clear a path as you could possibly get.
Ever get.
I don't ever remember a team making a run other than maybe the 2019 Toronto Raptors, because they played a few teams that had some injuries, and particularly in the championship series against the Golden State Warriors, no Klay Thompson, no Kevin Durant. So that was kind of this year-ish for them. But to go through the Lakers with an unhealthy LeBron, unhealthy Anthony Davis, you go through Denver, you don't have Jamal Murray. You're going through the Clippers right now with no Kawhi Leonard. And then if you get to the championship series, the finals, I mean, who knows who you're going to face? Yeah. I mean, everybody kind of thought a week ago, I would have said the way that this played out, it's Milwaukee, no question. Now I actually have to pump the brakes on that and say, I don't know. But I think as far as the Suns, it will never be gift wrap like it is this year.
No, never.
Well, and the other side of that equation, because you're absolutely right. You played banged up teams up and down the line, and the Suns team has been remarkably healthy. You've got obviously the 2 games with Chris Paul with COVID. You've got Devin Booker with the face mask on, but he's able to go.
Paul with the shoulder.
Paul with the shoulder. And now the question is, how much time was Campaign going to miss? So you've been relatively healthy through all this. So the scales have definitely worked out in your favor. And I compare that back to when you guys made your run back in the day. And I asked this question. I said, how many, the offensive line that year? I don't know that there was any All-Stars or Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
They didn't miss any games.
No, they didn't miss any games, but we didn't play any teams banged up, Mike. Carolina was not banged out.
But I'm talking about just how you got to have luck on your side.
Oh, no question.
You got to have luck, because when you look back at how did this team win a championship?
Yeah.
You can talk about all the different things that go into it.
It lined up for us, yeah.
And luck had to be in your favor.
To host that NFC Championship game was huge.
NFC, but when you have in the NFL, when you can say you're not rolling in and out offensive linemen throughout the course of the season,
for sure,
that's a big deal.
It is.
And I look at that's kind of the same thing here. This team has been relatively healthy.
Yes, they have.
And if that continues, that's absolutely in the favor. So I'm not pumping the brakes
either.
either.
If this team doesn't win a title this year, it'll be right up there with, and this is your Houston guy, 1994. So it was the year after the Bulls beat the Suns in the finals. MJ retires. A lot of guys on that Suns team will tell you they felt they were a more talented basketball team in 94 than they were in the 93 series when they went to the finals. But they got bounced by your Houston Rockets in 94 after taking a 2-0 series lead. They got bounced by the Rockets. Rockets go on to win that title. And a lot of Suns fans.
In 7.
Yep.
Against a team who was with John Starks, who was
against the Knicks,
1 for 17 in that game.
But a lot of Suns fans and then players on that team will tell you they feel like that's the one that was Jordan out of the way. This is our shot, and they blew a 2-0 series lead. If you don't win this title this year, you'll have those same feelings down the road, because right now as you sit, you have a 2-1 series lead on the Clippers with no Kawhi, as you pointed out. The only thing standing in your way really is Giannis. Right? I mean, if you don't
can't say that right now, because I'm telling you, Atlanta is making that a not so fast, my friend.
So this is
It's as wide open
You're never gonna
a
get it.
Final Four as
You're
you're
never
ever
gonna
going to
get
get.
it.
Well, we go back to it because you said a week ago you would have said the Bucks.
Without question.
2 weeks ago we would have said the Nets.
Yeah.
And you, because I don't want to put words in your
I
mouth.
said the Nets. That's right.
But you said this
and
is
they were healthy.
right.
Yes.
Exactly. And you said this is the Nets year.
Yeah.
It was their year until an
Yeah.
ankle and a hamstring
Yeah.
changed
Right.
that whole scenario.
Sticking with the Suns. Pump the brakes or not. Patrick Beverley's in Devin Booker's head.
Oh, pump the brakes. I think for Devin Booker, the only thing that's slowing him down right now is the mask. I think the mask had a lot to do with his Game 3 performance. He hadn't played well before that in Game 1 and 2. I thought he had a better game in Game 1 than he did in Game 2. But what Devin Booker has done in this postseason as a whole, I don't think there's any doubt that he has elevated himself to a different level as far as star status in the NBA. I think going into the playoffs, he was a 2-time All-Star. He was considered one of the better young players. But what he's done, and then in that 40-point triple-double that he had in Game 1, I think he put himself in a much higher category. I think he and Trae Young have done more for their personal brand than anybody else has done in the playoffs thus far.
I'm gonna be that guy on the 101, the guy going to Sun City. I'm not pumping the brakes, but I'm riding my brakes a little bit.
Hold up.
Because I gotta see it.
You got to see what? Devin Booker?
Book come out and say, all right, screw the mask. I'm just gonna go with whatever.
He can't, Mike. His nose is broken.
I understand that, but whatever is like. If
So the question was, or the statement was, Pat Beverley is in his head.
Booker's head. He's not in his head.
he might be.
No, I don't buy that, Mike. After
I'm
a 40-point triple-double,
That's what I'm saying.
Well, in Game 1, though,
Patrick Beverley didn't play.
yeah. So this is the adjustment from Game 2, and since Game 2, his shooting
all right.
percentage is down through the roof.
So if Devin Booker comes out, mask, no mask, whatever, and he comes out and he reverts back to what we saw, then I'm wrong. I'm dead wrong.
I
But
think
if you're
he does.
Tyronn Lue and the Clippers, you're good.
Oh, you're still
Half
sitting
of
out
it.
there.
What's the old yogi? 99% of this is half mental,
Yeah.
right? So you're gonna milk this for. Like,
But you have to, though, Mike.
right.
That's his job.
So that's getting in somebody's head.
This
Okay.
is, in my opinion,
That goes back to the Jordan rules, like
Yeah.
early on in that, you know.
In my opinion, this is Bruce Bowen 2.0. Remember what Bruce Bowen did to the Suns when he was with the Spurs?
Right,
And he
but-
would just harass like his only job was to harass Steve Nash.
But Bruce Bowen was also 6'5", almost 6'6",
Right.
with nice long arms and a nasty disposition. Patrick Beverley is about 6 feet tall, 6'1", and he doesn't have nearly the ability to get up in you, if you will. He's physical, but he's not the defender that Bruce Bowen
And he
is.
doesn't.
Well,
I had to look it up. I'm sorry, but
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
had to look it up. But this is a guy that had to he spent his first 5 years of his professional career
Everywhere.
playing international,
Everywhere.
Like here's a guy who had to scrap and like so. This is not like when you talk about highly touted draft picks that have come in and
He done it the hard way.
yeah, he did it the hard way. So if Tyronn Lue tells him to go out there and do whatever, he's going to
He's
do
gonna
it
do
because
just that.
that's why he's in the league.
And he did get paid, though. Now, he has gotten
No,
a
no doubt.
contract since, but he still has that mentality that I got to do whatever I got to do to make sure that my job security is solid, and he takes great pride on the defensive side.
2011, he was the Russian guard of the year.
Wow.
Like he's playing in the Russian league.
Wow, 10 years
So-
ago.
So this guy he knows what his role is, I guess is my point.
So yesterday, again, we're recording this on a Friday. So yesterday, the Chicago Cubs, as a committee, pitched the 7th no-hitter this year
Should've been
already.
8th.
Should have been 8, but it's 7. However, even that is the most before July 1 in any year. The 7th no-hitter ties the most in any one season since 1900, since they call it the modern day baseball.
Yep.
So pump the brakes or not, you could care less about no-hitters at this point.
Pump the brakes. I care about no-hitters. I think Major League Baseball has a problem, though. If there are no runs being scored, I think people lose interest. I think the average fan or the what do they call them? The casual fan.
Yeah.
They're going to be the ones that are going to be lost, and they're going to be the ones that are going to change the channel because there's going to be other things that you can do
Yeah.
than watch a pitcher just go down and mow down 27 batters.
Right.
Or however many batters that they face, but none of them get a hit. I just think that it's not great for baseball. For the purists, yeah, you want to see pitchers go out there and be dominant because that's what the game was, defense and strategy and all those things, making the shift and keeping guys off the, out of the ballpark. But I don't know if long term having that many no hitters and the pitchers being dominant is quite what MLB had in mind.
You know what it is? It's physics, which I sucked at in high school. But for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And baseball felt like, the ball was juiced. They've got all the home runs a couple years ago. Even if you want to go all the way back to Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire when they had the steroid
But
era.
it was never more popular than it was then, Mike.
No, that's the point, though. But the fans, yes. But Major League Baseball, we got to fix this problem in their mind. I agree with you, because now if you're a fan of whatever team and your guy's got a no-hitter, you'll turn it back in the 8th inning to see if he's going to close it out or not. I did that a couple weeks ago when the Tigers had a no-hitter at the Mariners. I watched the 8th and 9th inning.
Yeah.
But baseball is trying to figure it out. And now with the dominance of pitchers, if you recall, now the umpires can check the pitchers coming in, coming out.
Oh, that whole thing's a joke.
Right?
That's its whole own segment.
Rob Manfred has a huge problem on his hands.
So they got to figure it out. Is it the juice ball era? Is it the pitchers era? Remember back in the 60s, Bob Gibson was so dominant, they changed the pitcher's mound.
And it's the swing. Right now it's the swing.
They lowered it.
It's the swing for the fences era now, though.
Yeah.
It's all about exit velocity and trajectory of your bat, and everybody's swinging for the fence, everybody's striking out. So
Yeah.
I think that's why you're seeing so many of these no-hitters recently. But I'll tell you this, it can scroll across the bottom of the screen on ESPN, or my phone can buzz with an update, and I don't check in.
do
Whereas
if it's
it
your
used to
team.
be, you'd hear there was a no-hitter going, oh my God, this is history. It doesn't feel that way anymore, in my opinion.
And I'm talking about when you had that era of Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, 1998 to about 2002, 2003, somewhere in there. Barry Bonds, throw him in there. Think about the contracts that were being put out back then. Think about the money that was being made.
Yeah.
Think about the TV commercials. Chicks did the long ball.
Yeah.
How all of the money was being poured into Major League Baseball. Then you had them crack down on it. The money went back out, and now you're having those same teams now try to put the squeeze play, if you will, so to speak, on some of these contracts. I just think anytime you have in-house fighting, I think it's bad for everybody.
Well, and you look at how teams react to that. I'm a fan of one of the worst teams in the last couple of years in Major League Baseball, Detroit Tigers.
Weirdest
So
than
what
my
do they
Astros?
do? They get top draft picks are all pitchers. You got to figure this out. And when they had their no-hitter a couple weeks ago, it was one of their guys, I think he was from Alabama or Auburn, something like that, or a top draft pick. He'd been in the system for a couple years, and now he comes up and throws a no-hitter. So you look at these teams, and they try to react to what's going on around them.
Yeah.
And the pitching's getting better, and they're changing the rules, but I don't know. I don't know where the sweet spot is, to your point, for Major League Baseball. What's the
Well
sweet
played
spot?
there.
Because you can't go back to what you had with Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire.
And Barry Bonds.
And Barry Bonds
Yes.
and fill in the blank.
Yeah.
But to Sean's point, if you got a no-hitter every other game, what's the point?
Who's going to watch?
What's the point?
Who's going to watch 5-0?
Right? What's the point?
And the other team doesn't even get on base.
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to see that?
Tonight in Tampa Bay, you got a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Pump the brakes or not, the NHL Game 7 of a Stanley Cup playoff is the best playoff experience in sports. I'll start with B-Train.
Pump the brakes.
Can I hit it again for you?
One more time.
Can I give you a whole?
Hold up.
I mean, give me all of it. All of the things that you can do to stop it. I
People will tell you this, though.
actually get into hockey during playoffs.
So do
just
I.
like I get into baseball playoffs. When it's playoffs, I'll even say for basketball, I don't watch a lot of the regular season, but you give me playoff basketball, playoff any sport, I can pretty much
I got
lock
into a
in.
cornhole playoff one time on ESPN The Ocho. True
Okay,
story.
you went too far. Now you just went too
True
far.
story.
Now you hold up on yourself. Right there.
Hold up.
Cornhole? I mean, really?
It was during the pandemic.
Okay. But when you start talking about Game 7s, I understand that there's drama, there's intrigue, there's dislike because you've played the same team 6 times already. You know this team. You know what they're going to do. They know what you're going to do. You're tired of seeing them. And so every possession becomes critical. Every shift becomes critical. And then it really comes down to the hot goaltender. Who's the guy that can keep the puck out of the net?
Yep.
I get all of that. But when I start thinking about Game 7s and basketball and you talk about an NFC championship game or a Super Bowl where 2 teams are evenly matched, that still nothing holds weight.
See,
to
I'm
that.
with you. See, I agree with you, but you hear this every year. Oh, there's nothing like the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs in a Game 7. Now I'm going to go to our resident hockey guy, Is that a true statement?
I think it is. Like if I was to rank order, and this is hard because I'm not taking anything away from football when I say this. You know, and football is what it is. The Super Bowl is going to dominate them all from a rating standpoint. But it's just the sudden death nature of it, you know, particularly when they go to overtime. And I forget, you know, last night's game between Vegas and Montreal, first time the Canadians in the Stanley Cup Finals since the 90s.
Since my senior year,
you know, for me,
1993.
right? And for me, it's akin to March Madness is a lot like that. It's win or go home, right? And it's so yeah. Maybe I'm biased. I grew up in Detroit.
See, football's got. I mean, the NFL's got win or go home as well. That's what I don't understand.
But it's just one game as opposed to. I mean, you've had 7 cracks at this team. Like to me, that's what knocks it down.
And I think the other thing that does it for hockey. I mean, like you know, all game 7s aren't created equal. Like if the Lightning win tonight 5-2, you're like whatever. But last night,
that was great.
You go to overtime, which in hockey is sudden death.
That was great.
None of the other sports are sudden death overtime. Like you could have a game 7 in basketball, it's not sudden death.
Well, in the NFL, you score a touchdown, it's over.
Ask the other
Steelers.
team gets the ball. Blah, blah, blah.
No, ask the Steelers.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
But in baseball, you still get to. So,
Tebow.
you know, I'm not taking anything away from the other
I'm with
sports, but it's just my personal opinion. I'm
Okay.
gonna go with you on that one.
All right, I hate to do this because this song is such a staple of the program, but I gotta switch.
Whoa. Whoa.
I gotta switch music here.
Wow.
Sorry about this. So apparently the government is about to release a summary of everything it knows about UFOs. Now, early reports indicate that it'll be pretty inconclusive, but the Discovery Channel's milking it for all it's worth. They're going to analyze the government's report on UFOs in a 3-hour live special. 2-part pump the brakes here. Pump the brakes or not, you're going to tune into that. And pump the brakes or not, UFOs exist.
Pump the brakes on tuning in.
Okay.
Yeah.
No thanks, not for 3 hours.
All right.
But to think that there are not other forms of life,
You're crazy if you think.
you crazy.
I mean, the universe is huge.
Yes.
Massive.
Breaking
Yes.
news.
How can there not be anything else out there?
Sean Cressman.
You
Nah,
know,
I'm not
I
watching
just-
it either because I don't need for 3 hours to tell me you don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
You know, because supposedly the news report is they've got 100 and some odd incidences they can't explain.
Yep.
So what are you gonna?
Yeah, if it's
well, something happened, but I
well,
can't tell you exactly what
Well,
happened.
and that's just the nature of the UFO to begin with, right? Like if it
Yeah.
was
it's an
identified.
unidentified.
Yeah, if they were going to have a conclusion to this 3-hour special, it wouldn't be an unidentified flying
Do you guys
object.
remember back in the
It'd be
day
identified.
the Phoenix Lights?
Yeah,
And
I
I
do.
can't tell you what year
I
it
was
was.
here.
I was here. I saw them. I was out driving around.
What were they, Grose?
It was unidentified. I have no idea.
What was it?
I can't tell you. I bet you it's one of the 100 and some odd reports the government
might be.
can't explain.
It might be.
They thought it was a weather balloon. They thought it was like test rockets. Because if you wake up early here, which I usually don't, you can see the rockets launched from New Mexico.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you can see the
Well,
contrail.
and what was the Elon Musk thing that he sent up for recently? There was like a line of satellites he's setting
Yeah.
up for this new internet deal he's got going on.
Yeah.
And
So-
people are freaking out over
But
that.
they announced it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like, hey, check it out. You can
Yeah,
see
they
this
knew that
happening.
was coming.
Yeah, I agree with you, though. You can't sit here and say,
You're
nah, we're the
crazy.
only one. We're the only
We're
one.
the only intelligent life form.
You're
out there.
arrogant as it gets if you can't.
Right.
Oh, thank you for bringing that
I
back.
had to slide
That
back
other
in.
music kind of freaked me out.
Slide back in.
It was,
Wow.
It was creepy.
Wow.
So we're all in agreement. Not tuning in,
No,
but something's got to be out there,
Something's out there.
right?
definitely something.
All right, that's
Watch some X-File reruns.
That's how they look at us. I mean, you know,
Right?
we might be the aliens for real. You know.
It's the Simpsons predict everything.
Wow.
They had their 2 aliens
Oh,
where they
no.
got to to planet Earth, and they saw everything that was going on. They're like,
turned around
let's
and
get
left.
out of
Yeah,
here.
let's get out of here. It's crazy.
All right, we can't wrap up the show until we have our dad joke.
All
Now,
right.
this is how the dad jokes work. B-Train gives us one each week.
Is he going to redeem
No
himself?
matter what, he's going to get one of these. All right? But after that is when the grading system comes in. He's either going to get laughter because it was a solid dad joke. If he knocks it out the park, we give him a standing O. Or, like last week, if it doesn't land,
It did land. You guys showed no love.
With a thud.
Oh, wow.
Listen to this
Wow.
guy.
Oh, and I only say
See what
that
you did
nothing
there.
but nothing. You've set the bar so high.
I see what
First
you
couple
did
weeks
there.
were a little, yeah.
I see what you did there.
All right, so where are we going here? Again, that's how the grading system works. That's how we wrap up the program. B-Train, where are we going?
All right, here we go. So I started a nightclub for men with erectile dysfunction. Yeah, it was a total flop. And nobody came.
I gotta put a disclaimer on this one.
Maybe one of the best ones. Might be one of the best ones. I'll give him that.
Like on the TV show, if you have young children in the room, you might want to have them turn
Yes.
away.
Hey, this is a podcast, so we can do whatever.
Listener
we want.
discretion advised.
This segment
There
will
you
be
go.
about 15 seconds. You'd like? Tune in afterwards.
Not according to that joke. Thank you. Good night. I'll be here all week.
Sean Cressman riding your coattails.
Hey, dad jokes rule.
There you go. All right, that's it for Train and Grose. Give us a follow on Twitter @Train and Grose and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you next time.
I holla.